Quick note, guys, the discussion of the Auld Lang Syne, Humpty Dumpty, stuffed Lennon, and potential grimoire is towards the back of this presentation after we get through the first, say, 8 minutes. Hey guys, it's Matt. We are gathered here today to get through this thing, or in this case, end out this thing that they call 1 year. You know, when that ball drops and Ryan Seacrest says, 5, 4, I don't feel any different. I don't feel it because there is no difference. There's no, hey Ryan, you jackass host jerk in Times Square. There's no such thing as time. Time is a not milk presentation for the most part. First off, as we end the year, I would like to thank Bill for his incredible work once again on all the posters. There's probably even 12 I haven't even shown you. We'll get to several of Bill's posters today. Thank you for all the great artwork, Bill. And Bill, I promise, I know you'll cut me off in a second. I have not yet used the Chat GPT. I have not yet used Midjourney or any AI quote art image programs. I have not touched it, Bill. Please believe me. I know you'll cut me off in a second. To Bill, the AI art generation programs are essentially like a Ouija board. Now, I'm not sure if Bill would go as far as if you use them in some way you'll be possessed. And I guess many people use Ouija boards that are not always possessed. It doesn't always turn out like The Exorcist, where you float up and spin your head around. But Bill, just want to get that out of the way. I hope you continue doing posters for us. And I'll be honest with you, if I ever break down and I become possessed and I go on the Midjourney website and pay the $14.95 a month. By the way, if you go to the midjourney.com website or whatever it is, all that code loads, it has a very, very dark feel to it. It has a very eerie feel to it. Maybe I'll show you that later in this video. Guys, I forgot to look at the headlines before starting this video to make sure Dubuque is still with us. We have another ramming of the crowd incident, it appears, from CNN. Guys, if you've been with me longer than a few weeks, you know that I am skeptical of major news stories. In this world, guess what? Some events at some point, I know this irritates and triggers the first grade truthers, some events will be real because they've set a precedent for it through the cake and a lake events. Could it be cake and a lake? Absolutely. Do I give a shit either way? Am I going to spend 1 second on it? No. Even if in this reality, here's a rule for the graduate level truther. In many cases, even if it's real, it's fake. Now go figure that out. I'll explain that to you first through fifth grade truthers some other time. That being said, there are certain artifacts or scenarios or situations or gematria that present themselves via the cake and a lake events. If these things occur, it's not always a cake and a lake event, but usually it is a giveaway. For example, one we haven't talked about in quite a while is the leaving of one shoe. The leaving of one empty shoe has been a giveaway for these rammings, these types of events. Speed, the leaving of one shoe, empty. Or, of course, the Russian Vids was Russian Vids was the first one to point it out over 12 years ago. Look at the 33 of the license plate. Look at the 33 here. The 33 comes up. Doesn't always mean it's cake in a lake. There are retarded catastrophe thespians like Mike, from the Vegas. Retarded catastrophe thespians or crisis, and they say, "Hey, did you see the car? Saw the car." They're people interviewed are generally retarded. That's another giveaway. That's an Orlando situation, and those moron buffoons that were interviewed on the streets of Orlando roughly 12 to 13 years ago. There are things that give away cake in a lake, but it's not always the case. I just wanted to remind people, that's because you know what came to my mind as soon as I ended the last segment was one of my favorites is, and they even did this on September, in 2001, the leaving of one empty shoe. I don't know why they get off on that. I don't know. This is a weird group that Clarice, this man you seek, this thing you seek to understand, not know. It's a weird group of motherfuckers. So let me tell you what happened to me last night, New Year's Eve. Was that like a little like Fire Marshal Bill? Let me tell you something. Last night, New Year's Eve, most of you know I went to Penn State, and I do watch Penn State football still. I'll look for your righteous truth or comments below. Let me try to remember the last one. The last one was, I was talking about how college football is proof of not milk, proof of everything being destroyed intentionally. And there was a comment that said, as soon as you started talking about ball sports, I checked out. That's also similar to the beginning of Reservoir Dogs. I liked Lucky Star and Borderline. As soon as she started that Papa Don't Preach thing, I checked out. And the Righteous Truther will tell me, even when I'm mocking the Righteous Truther now, there'll be a comment below saying, "You watch football." Okay, so Matt, do you have to do that every time? Yes, I do. So, okay, I'm getting excited about the game. There's a Chinese restaurant in the Marchwood Center here. It's been there for 20 years. I've never been in. I said, it's finally time after 20 years to go in. It's called like Super Walk or something. Usually go next to it. There's a place called Mario's. I get their pizza. Rocco's is up the way. Sorry. So I go in and I'm like, okay, let me try this place. So I get some beef and broccoli. It was actually pretty darn good. Here's the deal. 15 minutes before game time, kickoff, this playoff game between Penn State and Boise State, thunder and lightning. It's thunder and lightning outside. What the? It's going to be January 1st. We don't get thunder and lightning in Pennsylvania in the middle of the winter. Rolls of thunder and then cracks. What the heck is going on? Then little rounds of downpours, lightning cracks, boom. Well, here comes the kickoff. But what do you think happened? Vomp, electricity. Literally at kickoff, vomp. I'm sitting there with my noodles and my freaking beef and broccoli. Addie's on my lap. I'm trying to push her off because I'm trying to eat. It just vomp right at kickoff. I'm like, okay. All right, whatever. It just, and then of course I bailed out instead of being all upset. I'm laughing. It's just so funny to me. This is how memories are made. I'll never forget that New Year's Eve. I sat there in the dark for roughly 2 hours, maybe 2.5. Well, yeah, it was like 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter when it came back. So maybe 2.5 hours. I'm calling Greg for updates. I could have found my little transistor radio, but I just wasn't into it. Found a little MP3 player. The cat's all freaked out. They know something's wrong. Like it's all dark. And I think they sense the electromagnetic, that surrounds them, all the outlets with the electricity flowing and the microwave and everything just goes down. And it's actually, if you can tune into it, the feeling of a house when all the electricity goes down, you can train yourself to tap into it. It's actually a very calming feeling. It's a very nice feeling. It just takes a while. I mean, this is like Western Baghdad up here. I've been down. I've lived here 22 years. Say, is it 22 or 23? I don't know. 20 over 22 it is. And I've total time down with no electricity. I don't say I lost my power. No way will I. That's what it wants us to say. I lost my electricity. I've been down over 2 months total. I mean, I know people apartment complexes that have lived there for 30 years and they were down like, I don't know, a few hours here and there, maybe a total of a half a day in 30 years. Over 2 months. One time was 7 days without, one time was 8 days without. One was an ice storm. One was a power surge where literally my box blew up, which you guys knew happened a few years ago. A cinder block blew up. It was so violent, the surge didn't even make it into the house, and it was actually quite fortunate. But it turned out to be a great exercise in perspective. The last book chapter, this is how memories are made. I will remember this for the rest of my life, just like watching the Indianapolis 500 up in that loft in the attic where we had this old black and white TV rigged up with my dad and my cousin that I talked about in the last book chapter that happened, just over 40 years ago, I guess. So overall, I was thrilled. I was just saying this is great. I don't know. I would normally, I guess, even 15 years ago, right at kickoff, the second Penn State playoff game, I'm like, come on! Oh, come on, you son of a bitch! I'm always getting fucked. I would have been, maybe I wouldn't have done that, but I would have been upset. Probably tried to rush out and who's got electricity around here? Rush out to somebody's house or something to watch it, run down the street and look for lights. Who's got lights on? What son of a bitch can I introduce myself as a neighbor? It's kind of like introducing Rain Man. Remember, my brother Raymond here needs to see Wapner, or he needed to see, was it Jeopardy or Wheel or whatever, and he just Tom Cruise knocked on that random person's door because Raymond had to see Wheel of Fortune. I would have done that 15 years ago. You're not watching the Penn State game? Well, you are now, you son of a beach. I just didn't care. I didn't care. I was happy when it came back. I was able to see half of the fourth quarter, or whatever. But it was interesting. It was right out of a movie. Right at kickoff, So electricity comes back, watch the end of the game, whatever, the trophy ceremony, etc. Penn State moves on in the playoffs, and then it's like around 11:30 or 11:40 or something. And I'm thinking, oh boy, am I gonna tune over to Ryan Seacrest, Dick Clark's rockin' New Year's Eve? I'm kind of tired. I know these Yahoo assholes down the road are gonna set off their fireworks. I would have gone right to bed, but it's gonna wake me up and it's gonna piss me off. So I'm just gonna stay up. Think, what am I? Am I gonna go back to watching Dark Matter? I need to talk about that Apple TV show soon. It's not great. There's some interesting concepts. Dark Matter. He switches himself out with himself. It's interesting, but it's not that great. I picked up Apple TV just in the last few weeks because Severance. I have to see the new season of Severance. It's one of the most fascinating things I have seen in the last 15 years. As soon as Severance, the new season in January, is over, they say it's coming in January, I will cancel my Apple TV. But the concept of Severance, even related to what the higher self is to you or the spiritual part of you that's not here, it's fascinating. We've talked about Severance, and I'll start talking about it again very soon. But a few quick things before the real reason I'm talking about this New Year's Eve stuff. We'll get to this weird-ass song, Auld Lang Syne. For the first time ever, I looked up the lyrics. We'll look at them together in just a moment. So I'm like, what am I supposed to start watching? Dark Matter? I'm tired. I go, well, fine, I'll watch the stupid ball drop, and then the jerks down the road and around the community will start setting off their fireworks. The love or the fascination with fireworks, folks, is a real weird trait in people. It could be an NPC trait. I would bet most of you, or almost everybody listening to me, can't wait to get out and do their fireworks. Once you've seen a few fireworks at 8 or 10 years old or 12 years old, it's like, well, that's nice. But they love it. Any chance to set off those fireworks, the NPC loves it. That sort of behavior is weird. It's odd, folks. It's weird. But they do it around here. Okay. So Ryan Seacrest. Now, first thing I noticed was the feel of it wasn't nearly as dark as it's been since the C, the V, me years, 2020, we didn't really know what was coming. 19 into 20, it still had a dark feel, but I wasn't really paying that much attention to it. 21 and 22, the feel of it, and it wasn't just because there was no crowd one year and everybody in masks and all that. Overall, the feel was the last, up until this year. I'm not saying it was cheery. I'm not going to send flowers or anything to the producers of Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. It just didn't feel as dark, as awful, as heavy. The feel of nothing is felt to me and I am not in any way like many of you are. I am not somebody that sees auras. I was talking earlier about the feel of the house when there's no electricity. It's hard work for me to tap into those types of things. This stuff does not come naturally to me. You know that if you're old guard and you've been here. I'm not one of those real intuitive people. I observe not and can see what the spiritual adversary is up to, and then I communicate it back out to you. But I'm getting better at these sorts of abilities or traits. Considering what we've done over the last 15 years, I'm getting much better at it. And the feel was awful as usual. I mean, it's just a horrible, demonic presentation, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it was from a feel perspective last year, the year before. Matt, does that mean this year coming up is not going to be as bad? No, I don't think that what just happens in the 2 hours with Ryan Seacrest running around with his Michael O. Tuckguard underwear, I don't think that sets the trend for the entire year. I wish it did. But no, I don't think it does. I just wanted to tell you, the feel was different to me. Then, of course, they sing the Auld Lang Syne, and then depending on is Anderson Cooper still over there with those freaks over at CNN? I said to somebody recently, I don't understand how he could have one viewer. I'm not joking. I think Anderson Cooper, I don't know if he did it this year. Anderson Cooper, I should look it up. He's been doing the New Year's Eve thing for CNN like Ryan Seacrest does. And I've said to people, I don't understand why one person watches his present. I mean, I'm not in love with Ryan Seacrest, but at least it's a somewhat professional presentation. Anderson Cooper, if he told a joke to save his life, I don't think he could pull it off. It's like watching sandpaper in the rain. And that brings us to this that we'll spend a few minutes on at least. One of the creepiest songs of all time. It could be a spell or a grimoire. Auld Lang Syne. In the United States and New York, 5, 4, 3, 2, ball drops, confetti. They immediately break into Auld Lang Syne. I know they do the New York, New York as well, but I think they do the Auld Lang Syne first. I don't know. Everybody breaks into it at every party. I want to know, do they do this where you are in the West? I doubt they do it in Osaka, Japan. I doubt they do it in certain parts of Russia, but do they do this throughout the UK? Where you are in Australia, do they do this? Is it just a United States thing? I think it originates from Ireland or Scotland, so no, but I want to know if they sing this as a tradition where you are around the world. Now, everybody thinks it's old. If you tap somebody on the street, what's that song they break into right after the ball drops in Times Square, New Year's, just a few seconds into the new year? They would say, Auld Lang Syne. You say, spell it for me. And they would go, me too. I'm not saying I knew. I would say Old, O-L-D. Then what's after that? I go, nobody knows. I don't know. Auld Lang? I guess some people would say O-L-D, L-A-N-G. And then they would say, me too. I didn't know what this, we're going to look at this together. This is some creepy shit. Syne, Old Lang. People have sung it for 40, 50 years of their life and have no idea what they're singing. That's what makes it. Could be a not-known spell or some sort of a collective conscious grimoire. So it's in a way similar to the original and most famous IQ test that I came up with. I've told you guys about this a few times over the years. My IQ test is to simply tap somebody on the street and say, do you want to take a quick IQ test? And some people, well, you can't tap anybody, you go to jail. And they say, okay. Say, what does it mean? IQ. That's the IQ test. And I don't know, about maybe half. Half would know intelligence quotient. Half of the people in the United States wouldn't even know that. So you agreed to take an IQ test. You don't even know what it means. You failed. But the second part of that, you could say quotient. Okay, you knew it means intelligence quotient, but if you really want to get an A, define quotient. That almost nobody's going to be able to do that. And as of right now, I couldn't do it. So it's not, we all fail, I guess, but the point is not that. The point is old, O-L-D. Everybody thinks it. So we're going to look at this together. And we have to be, I guess if it's some sort of spell or grimoire that the Knock puts out over the masses just seconds into the new year to set the tone for another nasty, horrible year of slavery and oppression. We have to be very careful when we look at this. So put your defenses up and we'll dive into this together. Here it is, folks. Not only does nobody know, spell the title, they would say Old, and someone would say Syne, Z-I-N-E. And what is that? Nobody knows. Nobody knows the words in a drunken state. We've done it for years. Well, I don't do it anymore. I recognize this could be something very dark. But for years, I've done this. I used to go to parties in my 20s and, hello, acquaintance. We forgot. Now we know that, and then what's the next line? Nobody knows. You just kind of slur it. And never brought to more. Nobody knows. Okay. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot in the days of Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne might do. We sang some. I was coming back to me in elementary school. They did a bastardization of this. Our class, we graduated elementary school. We thought it was like a big deal. 6th grade going into the middle school, or what was it called? The junior. It was first year. Was it junior high or middle school? They switched over right when I was about to do it. We had a 6th grade graduation, and we said I remember this is coming into my head. Through all our elementary years, that was part of it. And we said something like, we say thanks and then goodbye. You remember that from 6th grade? Yeah, I do. But it was a weird bastardization of Auld Lang Syne. So at the bottom, we'll drink a cup of kindness yet for the sake of Auld Lang. Let's look at nobody knows what this is. So let's put your defenses on, folks. I don't know what we'll find here. We do this together. We explore this together. This could be nothing. It could be very dark. But I would think the way we know the Knock works, I think it would want to take advantage of the drunken state just seconds into the new year to re-implant its spell on people. But we'll see. One quick thing, guys, I forgot. Per the image that's up now, and I am going to use some hobo code here. I have my reasons for that. Without a doubt, all I don't even how do you even say it. I'm just gonna say, like in Philly, it's $50. I'm saying old. I don't care. Auld Lang Syne. I'm gonna say it the way I've said it my entire life. Don't care what it really is. It's without a doubt a Humpty Dumpty. It's without a doubt a stuffed what you're looking at now. No doubt about it. Carried through time because the knot milk needs it to be carried through time. I know it's a little catchy, but would it catch on and for decade after decade? Hundreds of thousands of groups gathering, hundreds of thousands of parties across multiple countries and continents would sing this song just seconds into the new year. Is it that good? Really? No, it's obviously a major league stuffed what you're looking at here and a Humpty Dumpty that we've never talked about before. And if anybody's new, that just means it's not good enough to be as big as it is. It wouldn't have been able to carry itself through time for as long as it has. Hundreds of years. It's just not good enough. If somebody came up with it, hey, I have a tune we can sing once the new year comes. Oh, what's that tune? Should old acquaintance. Someone say, that's pretty good, but we're not going to sing that tonight, Johnny. And if you sing it, we're going to throw your ass out in the alley. It wouldn't have gone anywhere. It's just not good enough. It's catchy, but it's to be how big it is. I'm not saying it's as bad as the poem Humpty Dumpty or the little nursery rhyme. That wouldn't have gone anywhere after its first day of creation. But Auld Lang Syne is catchy, but it wouldn't be. Okay, Matt, you're saying the same thing. Remember, though, Humpty Dumpty's, it's not always a positive spiritual message that has to be carried through time. Some carry very uplifting messages, little hints and clues as to how this reality works. But some stuffed Lennons are of the knot milk, carried forth for what it does for them, in very dark, and could Auld Lang Syne be one of those? Okay, I guess I'm not terribly surprised by this. Researching what does Auld Lang Syne mean, it doesn't really get us anywhere. I'm confused coming out the other side as I was going in, but let's just spend a few minutes on this. Auld Lang Syne is a Scots phrase that literally translates to old long since. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't understand that either. Old long since. Auld Lang Syne, but it has taken on a more fluid definition along the lines of for old time's sake, or the olden days. Often miscalculated as an English dialect, Scots is a West Germanic language unique to What? Pootie Tang Award. Scots is a West Germanic language unique to Scotland. That's like the caveman commercial for Geico. That was helpful, Randy. It doesn't. Thank you. With a literary tradition that dates back to the early Middle Ages. Another Pootie Tang. Where does Auld Lang Syne come from? The Auld Lang Syne song lyrics we know or pretend to know, yeah, nobody knows them, today are derived from a late 18th century poem by Scottish bard Robert Burns. The song reflects upon old friendships that have stood the test of time and begins with a rhetorical question: should AULD acquaintances be forgot? Should Auld acquaintance be forgot? Well, we need to look up Auld. Don't ask me that, because I don't know what Auld means. No, of course not. We can assume, as the sentimental song continues, traces of the original Scots language are still there. No kidding. We don't walk around saying AULD all day today, do we? Duh. But today's lyrics are comparatively easy to decipher. Easy to decipher. Should Auld acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? I consider myself somewhat intelligent. I have no idea. We're not going to spend time on these lyrics because at best it wouldn't get us anywhere, and at worst it's a dark grimoire. Okay, finally I found something we can use. Auld, A-U-L-D, is a Scottish way of saying old, he said, noting that the song's English translation is for old time's sake. So if it means old, why don't you just say old? Why you gots to say old and confuse several million people? Oh boy, let's spend one more. Well, this is probably going to take longer than a minute. You know what typically happens, guys. Auld Lang Syne has long been a hit at New Year's parties. Pootie Tang Award? Who doesn't know that? Everybody join, blah, blah. Scottish poet Robert Burns first wrote Auld Lang Syne in 1788 and sent it to the Scots Musical Museum. This is where Not Milk and a stuffed Lennon or Humpty Dumpty comes into play, guys. He sent it to the Scots Musical Museum. But when submitting it, Burns noted that the poem already existed and that he was just the first to record it on paper, according to Scotland.org. Scotland.org. In the centuries since, Burns' poem has grown into a New Year's staple. See? Oh, there you go. It's a Humpty Dumpty. It not only carried itself through time artificially and continued to exist, it propagated and spread exponentially. It's not good enough to propagate exponentially. That's very important. So let's back up. Let me read that one more time. Burns' poem, original poem, has grown into a New Year's staple. Matt inserts around the world. Says Travis Alexander, a professor in North Carolina A&T State University's College of Art, Humanities, and Social Sciences. That's a mouthful. What? North Carolina A&T State University's College of Art, Humanities, and Science. What's their football team? Who trusts you? We should contact this Travis Alexander. Hi, Professor Alexander? That's like you have to say OBE and sir. And if you're a professor, you say professor, just like you say Sir Paul McCartney. I'm Matt McKinley. Who? Matt McKinley, conspiracy theorist. Hello? You're still there. You've recently been quoted by the USA Today and present yourself as an expert as to the lineage or etymology of the New Year's song Auld Lang Syne. Professor, sir, are you aware of the concept of the Humpty Dumpty or the stuffed Lennon? Do you know what that is and how it could relate to the song Auld Lang Syne? Hello? Hello? Sir? Hello? That son of a beach hung up on me. By the way, before we continue reading, if anybody could arrange for me to debate a college professor on any topic that we discuss, as long as it's within driving distance and reasonable, I'll go out there. Anybody could arrange that, please. And we need an audience, like the Oxford Debate Hall and those villains. Sorry. Okay. Let me continue reading. Where was I here? As a song, Auld Lang Syne first became popularized in the U.S. in 1929. 1 with the 9, 9 plus 2 is 11. It's always the same, right, Jeff? When band leader Guy Lombardo and his brothers performed it. Oh, it was nothing until then. It took Guy Lombardo's performance with his brothers, and then he said everybody stopped in front of the television. Well, they didn't have no TV. It was the radio program that little Ralphie waited for Little Orphan Annie's decoder ring, and what's that? What is that? It's the most incredible thing I've ever heard on the radio. Oh, that's the new song Auld Lang Syne. It's an old Scottish poem. Oh, that makes sense. How it propagated. Guy Lombardo. Look at the Not Milk backstory. Fails again. You failed. Not Milk backstory. You're always a failure. The brothers had a band, the Royal Canadians. Did they wear those red jackets? And they performed it on a radio show at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York. Every year at the stroke of midnight, he would do this. Alexander told USA Today. It became an expected staple every year at midnight for him and his band to perform Auld Lang Syne live over the radio. So just from that, it was so great that everybody had to do it. Folks, I'm glad that we have our armor up, on, polished, and our sword oiled. This is getting darker by the minute. Last screenshot for this article. The song poses a question for those parting ways with the previous year, Alexander said. How should we remember our friends and our experiences of the year, he said. That's when the phrase comes in for Auld Lang Syne. The song's chorus ends with a suggestion. Quote, "You forget all those crazy things," Alexander said. "It's done. The year is over. Whoever you're mad at, let's just share a cup of kindness for old time's sake. Let's let it go." As for the poem's verses that aren't typically belted out on New Year's, they are likely left out because they're less applicable to life today and aren't as easy to understand for those unfamiliar with the Scottish language. Uh-oh, we got to look at this. Alexander said, calling the included verse timeless. Oh boy. I'm waking my friend Joe up in Mexico. Joe, is this a way for the Not Milk to steal our memories? Remember, Joe in Mexico has said holding on, one of his main goals or suggestions or advice for anybody is to declare through affirmation or to hold on to your memories. Take your memories with you through the moment of death. I believe Joe would say the Not Milk is out to steal memories. So Joe does the song Auld Lang Syne, belted out by hundreds of millions of people just seconds after what is declared to be the new year. Does this help the Not Milk in some way regarding memories? The way, remember, Dumbledore could put a freaking wand up to his head and suck a memory out and put it in some cauldron? Remember that shit? Why don't you just remember the damn memory, Dumbledore, Dumble-ass? He puts the damn not ring of power. That's freaking the Lord of the Rings. He puts his wand up to his head and pulls out the memory and puts it in a cauldron. Maybe that's what Auld Lang Syne does to you and I if we sing Auld Lang. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not sure we can change the world on this, but by golly, you can declare it right now and say, you know what? Auld Lang Syne, if it's dark, it doesn't work on me. Why? It doesn't. You can say that for yourself. It doesn't work on me, whatever it may be. If it's dark, it doesn't work on me. Why? Because I said so. Because I declared it through affirmation. And if it's not dark and it's just fun, then it's no big deal. Then there's no reason to say or not say the affirmation, but I might as well cover myself. See, I think these are very important, guys. The world plays a trick, and its trick is played until that trick is called out. And a way of calling out a trick is through affirmation. So my favorite example of all time, I'll say it for the 1,000th time. New driver's license in Pennsylvania. When's that Real ID going to start? Oh, it's pushed back again for the 10th time, Real ID. Like Real Girl Doll. It's, oh, my name is in all caps. That's not me. That's something that the system has to work through to, in some way, try to get to me. That's not me. Why? Because I said so. That's why. The trick works, and the trick is applicable. The trick has a degree of power as long as people buy into it. One way to not buy into it, don't call it a big, stupid word like affirmation. Just say, I see your trick, just like the truth drop in Clerks. I detect your ruse, ma'am. I detect your ruse, Not Milk, your cunning attempt to trick us. I call it out, and I declare it null and void. That's all anybody being tricked has to do to take the power away from the trick. Now, if anybody from Dubuque stumbled upon this video or somebody overheard you listening to it and you're becoming embarrassed, are you listening to that Matt again? Turn him off. This sounds awfully nuts and crazy. The ideas do. I don't think the presenter sounds nuts and crazy, but I am, and I try my best to sound sane. See, here's the reason I'm going as far as I'm going here. Even some of you say, Matt, it's just it's not always a conspiracy, dude. It's just a fun song that people sing. It's not always some giant evil backstory, Matt. Well, I'm sorry. When something is a Humpty Dumpty or a stuffed Lennon, it gets my attention. It's either put into reality to help us, or the Not Milk is using it to help itself. Okay, this song isn't good enough to be every single party, every single presentation on television about New Year's as long as I can remember from the day I was born. It's not good enough. It is pushed by Not Milk. When something is pushed by Not Milk, I know they're doing it not because they love you, Matt. Where's Bill's poster? I got to find another of Bill's posters. Sorry if I don't able to do it here about. They love you after 5,000 years of torture, torment, slavery, indentured servitude. That's a word I just made up. Sharecropping. Now they say because they want you to stay safe. I think Bill made that poster. It says, now we love you. We want you to be healthy. You take this round of 15 CVS Action Jacksinations. You take this round of 15 more Action Jacksinations. We've been persecuting and prosecuting you in indentured servitude and sharecroppery for over 5,000 years. Now we love you. I'm sorry if I can't find the poster. I'll show it to you some other time. But see, when it's pushing something, we know it doesn't love us. And I don't think I'm going too far. Usually we don't go far enough. Now maybe, okay, if it's just a fun song, then there's no harm in what we're doing. But it's not a bad idea. Next time you're at that party and that girl you've been looking at, staring at over in the corner, and she comes over and she puts her drunken arm around you and you put your drunken arm around her, I'm going to score big tonight. I don't care if I'm not attracted to her. Should never stop you. She says, let's sing. Should all the... You've already done the affirmations. Whatever this spell is doesn't work on you. You've declared you keep your own memories. Let's go back to the top of the article here. The song poses a question for those parting ways with the previous year. Parting ways with their memories? Is it being funneled or siphoned off by some not-milk machine that exists in the fourth density or something? How should we remember our friends and our experiences of the year? It asks us to let it all go, doesn't it? The Auld Lang Syne. And can the spell be just as applicable if we don't really know what the words mean? By your own standards, not milk, and your own sick courts of law, that's a form of fraud. You say, well, you signed the contract, Matt. Well, the contract is it's not in a written language that exists in this century. It's even beyond cuneiform, whatever that is. The contract has to be in English. See, if we don't understand the words of Auld Lang Syne, I call fraud on you, not milk. You can't take anybody's memory. Matt, you're going a little too far. Yeah, we're having a little bit of fun with it. All that matters is we detect, when we see the stuffed Leonard, the Humpty Dumpty, we detect something doesn't smell right with this. And all we need to do, we don't have to understand it. We just say, whatever's happening here, it doesn't work on me. It seems like a trick, and I sniff it out, and it doesn't work on me. And in fact, even a general affirmation might work for all not milk tricks, but I usually do specific ones. Like especially, I've talked about this example before. This really bothers me. The snake tongue or the parcel tongue in Harry Potter, or the spells called out in Latin. For example, there's that scene in Ready Player One, where one of the top wizards or sorcerers in the video game at the 100th level or something. He starts doing this. Remember that from Braveheart. I don't know Latin or anything. Remember a few words from Braveheart. I'm sure I butchered that. I didn't mean to say anything dark, not milk. If that got your attention at the Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island aluminum Ducati control center, but it sounds like Latin. I have no idea what I'm saying, and if it was dark, I take it back. It holds no weight. But in Ready Player One, I've told you this years ago, he's belting out this spell in Latin. I'm going, this doesn't work on me. And every time somebody belts out a spell in Latin, no matter what I'm watching, I always have to say the affirmation over again. That doesn't work on me. And then I kick myself saying, well, I've given the general affirmation. So, okay, Matt, wrap it up, Matt. It's turning into nonsense. So to me, I don't think I have gone too far here. When something becomes this big, then the not milk is using it in some way. We'll never know exactly how it's being used, but would you say if you had to pick behind two doors, door number one, it's out to help you, we love you, or door number two, it's nefarious, it's trying to take something from you, it's trying to block your spiritual power, it's usually operating behind door number two, that's just my experience. It doesn't usually really love you, but that's just me. Maybe I'm overly negative about the not milk and the evil system that's here. But since it typically operates behind door number two, it's not trying to help, then I have to have my defenses up. I have to have my guard up for something as potentially or seemingly benign as even in Philly, it's Auld Lang Syne. And what is Zine? Well, what does that sound like? Another YouTube channel will tell you, that sounds like Zion. Oh my God. Make it stop. Thanks for listening.